Hey guys, Jamie here. I'd just like to make this video to show my way of creating game-ready 3D assets in Maya 2017. We're going to start off with a few keyboard commands just to make sure you know what's going on, how you can navigate your world. So what I have here open is already a scale reference because you always want to work with scale when you're working with games because each environment will be walked through by a player. And if things are off scale, it's not going to look good. It's going to break immersion. So I'd like to start with tumbling. Tumbling is navigating around your scene. I'll show you very quickly. Just like this. Go underneath, you can go on top, the back, anything. And the way you do this is you hold down the Alt key and you use the left mouse click, and that will tumble around your subject, your object. Then if you right click with it, it will pan in and pan out. Then middle mouse click, all while holding Alt, scrub left and right. So that's the very basic thing. You might want to take 5 to 10 minutes just doing that. When I first started, I got stuck down here somehow, and I didn't know how to get back up. I had something like this, or I was like, how? But just a bit of practice, and you'll be good. Just swap in between all three of these. All right, so next what I want to cover is your gizmo. So see, as I click the object, it's highlighted in green. I'll explain that later. But this is your gizmo right here. This little thing here. So you have your Y space, which is up, your Z space, which is this way, and you have your X space, which is the other way. You can tell your orientation by this little icon here. So as I move, it moves with it. As you can see, the gizmo is corresponding with that, but sometimes when you have it in a different place, it'll end up not looking the same as this. But you can just always use this as reference. So your gizmo lets you move your object. So that was W, and W brings up your gizmo, your move gizmo. It can be used in different ways. So this is just for translation. And to translate means to move your object from one space to another. You can see here that as I move, I'm translating in the negative and in the positive. As you can see, this grid is very much like a graph, or it's just a grid actually. But see, it's your Cartesian grid or whatever it's called, moving in different directions, all that kind of stuff. And the way that you undo is just to press Z. You don't need to hold Control, and we'll bring our guy back here. Do it, and we're all 0 there. So next I want to cover E. You press E, and now your gizmo has turned into a rotating gizmo. And as you can see, you can rotate any way you want. And if you grab, so I'm grabbing along these lines. This is going to grab across the x-axis, which is always red. This blue one, whatever you have selected will turn yellow. So see, as I click this blue one, this one goes back to red. So there's your x-axis, move along that. Your z-axis, move along that. And your y-axis is like this. And then you can do a free rotate, which is not grabbing any of these, and it'll just do this. But like, you probably never want to do that. I've never legitimately done that for a good result. So bring it back to 0. There he is. And now R. R is your scale tool. So much like the other ones, you can just pull along these handles and you'll get different results. You see, you never want to scale things like this because this is now broken and it doesn't look good either. And you can scale out this way. You usually only want to use these when you're just starting out or when you can realize the proper control of when to use it. And up and down like that. Squish, squish, squish. All that. You might want to just do that. Like, do any of that. Just get it out of your system because it's pretty fun, but like, just get it out of your system. You'll get used to it. And you can see as well, I went back, I pressed W again for the move tool. You have these squares, and these I didn't use for the longest time, but they work very, very well. How you use them is you click on them and you just drag. And what I'm doing here, you can see this, I'll click here. This is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. And this square is going to act between the two. So he will move plainly in this space between, can move up and to the right because that's the y-axis and the x-axis. And same for this. It's wherever the square is in the middle of, like between the two axes. You see it's between the x, or sorry, the z and the x, and it can only move in this direction. See, I can move it all around here, but it'll never go up because I'm not scaling or I'm not moving in the y-axis at all. And similarly, as I move up and to the side with this, I can't move forward because I'm not grabbing anything that's related to the z-axis. And there's a third one here, Z and Y. Just hop around like that. And you can see not moving in the X at all. You can even see as this moves. It will not translate X at all. It's very helpful, and we'll be using it a lot in the rest of the video probably. So what else can I teach? So next, you want to use F. F will frame your object. It'll bring it all into view. Even like if you're like far away out of here, like it's so far away you can't really see it anymore. But if I hit F, I'm right back to where I am, right back to my object. But if you, let me see this. All right, so whatever object you had selected last, actually, so you want to press F to frame your object, which means that it will snap right back to where it is in full view. So that's F. And if you have nothing selected and multiple objects in the scene, then F will frame all of them together. I'll show you that quickly. So I'll explain what I just did there, but I'm just showing framing right now. So you see there's two objects. If I frame this one, it goes right to him. Frame this one, it goes right to that. But if I have nothing selected, it's going to frame both, which is pretty helpful. So what I did to create that cube, which is called a primitive, you can go here. There's plenty of places you can go to get your primitives. So a primitive is just a basic shape. You can see a sphere, a cube, a cylinder, a cone. We're all familiar with these objects, but they are the basis of anything. They're the basis of all objects that you can create. So what we want to do is make a cube. So as you can see, the cube's really tiny, depending on the scale. I should actually go into the grid options first. So you want to go to grid, under display, and click on this box. Whenever you see something in any of these and they have a box beside them, it means that you can change the parameters within that box or within that tool. So we're going under display, grid, click on the box. By default, I'll reset my settings. It's pretty small grid. And that's not going to work for us for this when we're using proper scaling. This model is from the Unreal Engine, and everything that's scaled to him will scale properly within the Unreal Engine, which is some tutorials that I'd like to do later on. So the way I like it is change your length and width to 500, and it won't hit anything until you hit apply. So you hit apply, large grid, you got a lot of space to work with, but it's all like fuzzy because your grid units are so tiny compared to everything else. See, this is the shape of a grid unit, and that's how that spawns in. But when we're working with Unreal scale, we want something similar to this. Put 50 instead of 5 there, and now we're back to what we had. And you can change these, you can change the color, it doesn't matter. I just like to use this green because it lets me see these individual units of 5 by 5, and that helps me a lot when I'm working. So hit apply and close. So now we have our primitive. It's very tiny. I'm just gonna put this guy over here actually. I'll provide a list of keyboard commands and my object file for this, just so you can always have your scale reference without it comes in with a bunch of extra things that are attached to it, but I've deleted those just for the sake of purely using it for scale. So what you want to do, as you can select things with a box. It's called a marquee selection. And your marquee selection is just a click and drag with your left click. And yeah, so anything that is bound within that box will be selected. So if I have both of these, it will select both. And your main object will be highlighted in green, and then the sub object will be highlighted in white. See, now it's green, and then now it's white. And if I had this, selected that, whatever your last one you clicked on is the green one. And then you see as this is white now. So we're going to scale up this cube. Sorry, I'm moving around a little too fast, but I'm just framing, and every time I want to get close to the object, and I'm tumbling in a direction that helps me understand where I am and what I want to look for. So we can scale just like, oh yeah, one thing I'd like to also mention with the gizmo is in the middle of the gizmo there's always a little, it's kind of like a uniform move or a uniform scale or a uniform rotate, like how I showed you with the uniform rotate here, that it moves in all directions. As with this, it moves in all directions. It's a little crazy. You don't really know where it's going to end up, so I really don't use that. But the only time that I really use uniform functions are with scale, because it scales it in all axes, X, Y, and Z, so it will always stay the same shape. It just gets larger. But if I were to scale in like just these, you can see it's become rectangular. Or this, still rectangular. But as I grab this and pull, always stays as a cube with proper dimensions. So you want to scale that up. You can scale also within here. And so it says 96 there. It's good to round things. It's not really good to have decimals in my opinion. So we'll do it to 100. If you click and drag down multiple channels, it will highlight them all, and then they all work within the unit that you put in. So I put in 100, and I have rotate, scale, and partly translate there. So everything is going to go to 100 when I press enter. So it's rotated. It doesn't look like it's rotated. Oh yeah, there you go. See, it's rotated a bit, it's translated, and it's to 100 scale. So that's always something helpful to use. And it goes away when you don't have anything selected. This is your channel box and layer editor, as it says here. So you click here, we're at the scale of 100, and there's your cube. We'll move that aside. We can make some other objects. So you press W for move that over. And here's a second way to select a primitive. Under here, this is called your shelf. And there's a whole bunch of different options. Like majority of them I don't use. I have one with my preferences here under Jamie. Here's the Arnold renderer. There's a whole bunch of VFX things and whatnot, but I don't really mess with those. So you want to go under polygons. So this is specifically for 2017. If you're using older versions or later versions, I'm not sure what it's going to look like, but that's why I'm showing you multiple ways to do something, because this will always be here. Create polygon primitive, and then you choose your primitive here, but it's not always the best to select from there, because constantly going up and then going here and selecting, it's a few seconds here and there, but like add that up after a full work day, and maybe it was like 40 minutes you spent doing this, and it could have been 40 minutes creating something. Maybe not 40 minutes, maybe like 10 minutes, but over a year, compound that and you'll see. So here's a second way. We're gonna create a cylinder, and you see here, it looks like a cylinder, but the way that you can tell is down here. See, it's kind of like popping everywhere, but like when I hover over something, it tells me what it is. So click the toggle between Mel and Python. We're not going to worry about that, but it's just telling me, it's like a tooltip on what I'm hovering over. So as I hover over this, polygon cylinder, create a polygon cylinder on the grid. So we'll do that. Click that, creates it. You know it's there because the gizmo's there. You can see it's highlighted. Press F to frame. We're up close. Everything looks giant. There's a giant cube, giant man. But we want to scroll out. Just scroll with the mouse wheel. I do a lot of things unconsciously, so I might just explain something like 10 minutes later after I had been doing it for 10 minutes. So I apologize for that, but I'm going to try and explain everything I do as I do it. So let's get this one up to a scale of 100 as well. So you can scale here, 100, and also, how can I do this? All right, we'll forget about that. Okay, so scale of 100. Oh, 199, geez. Let's do this. 100. Move that over. It's a lot larger because they come in as different sizes to begin with, really. So the cylinder is larger to begin with. That's why it becomes larger than the cube at 100, even though they're both the same scale. So we could even shrink that down. Do like 50. There we go. Now they look very similar. Oh, sorry. All right. I won't get into that. Give me a second. So we want to get a sphere, but we're not going to use this. We're gonna. This is the way that I like to do it. It's a little difficult to remember, but you press Control, Shift, and then wrong one. It's just Shift, and then right click and hold, and it'll come up with all these. Like here's your cube, here's your cone, cylinder, plane, disc, all these. Like you'll get different object options, and you're bound by this little string. So what we want to grab a sphere. So go over here, as it's blue and highlighted, sphere, and then you just let go. You let go of the right click, not the shift. Let me see if that works actually. So you can't create another object while you have an object selected in that menu, but like once I deselect, then I can go back and do this. So that's shift, right click and hold. If I do this, oh yeah, you can let go of shift and it doesn't really do anything. You just hold the right click. So if you don't want to select any of that, just go right to the middle, nothing selected blue, let go of that. So we want to marquee our sphere. We can see it's there because of the gizmo. See how this scales to 100. Rather large, but not as large as how the cylinder was. 50 might be even too small. Actually, it works. It works. All right, so we want to just move that over. We can just organize these a little better. And what else do I like to use? This, the plane, polyplane. So for now on, I'm going to be using the shift and right click to select my object because it's pretty much the easiest. Like if you get used to that, look at this. Made it. But look at this. To go up to create, polygon, plane, and then I created it. But this one I can just go like that, created. It's just for, you want to manage your time and save your time. So as many shortcuts as you can realize and remember and implement, you're gonna have a better workflow. So here's our plane, tiny like the rest of them. And we'll scale that as well, 100. So it's come across, it fits perfectly within these grid lengths. I'll explain grid lengths later because we're gonna be using them very heavily. So this is the basis for pretty much everything that I use to create objects. And it might not look like it now, but this could be a robot. This could be a wine glass. Obviously that could be an earth or something. And this could be a landscape. And it's just how you transform things. So next, we want to work within our primitive properties. So we'll delete all of these. Just get used to using your tools, your shift right click for your primitives, your W, E, and R for your scale, rotate, and move. So we'll scale this up to 100 again. And now I'll explain polygons. So a polygon is just a shape for the most part. Like we don't really need to get technical with it, but as you can see, you can even get rid of the grid right now. Like I go up here, get rid of the grid. You can just toggle it on and off. It's just easier to see without it right now. So actually we could probably just bring this above. Keep the grid there, keep the ground. So you can see it's a cube, multiple different sides. and each side is a polygon. It's called a polygon. It has 4 edges, and you can also make 3-edged polygons called triangles, and you would just always want to have either a 4-sided or a 3-sided polygon. If you have 5-sided, then it can break your object, and it doesn't work. It's like one of the number 1 rules. You just can't have above a 4-sided polygon. So I'm going to introduce you to the primitive properties. If you come over here, see polycube 1. That's what polygon cube 1. So that's what poly means. So if you click on that, it'll open up a dialog box here, or a channel box rather, and you have parameters in here, and these affect how many polygons are going to be on your object. So width, we'll see. Click on that, press 3, and this part is for scaling. See, it's just the same thing as scaling, but it's working within your specific parameters for your initial cube. You can't really use these parameters after you've modified it a lot, so that's when you would use these ones. So subdivisions. A subdivision is just basically, I'll show you actually. So subdivision width, 3. See, now we've divided it into 3 sections all along. I'll take the grid off actually. All along the object has been split into 3s, but only in the width. So we can undo that, go to height, 3. It's gonna cut the height like that. And as you can see, depth 3 does it along the other way. So if we select all 3 of them and press 3, you're gonna get something like this, something like a Rubik's Cube, but a lesser version of it because there's not as many subdivisions. But if you're to do something like 6, no, that's too many for a Rubik's Cube. Maybe like 4? Yeah, something like that. I think that's what they look like. So there you go. And what does this even mean? It means that you have more information you can work with. And I'll explain that right now. So put your grid back on, and we're going to go into, you hold right click. I'm not entirely sure what this is called, but it's pretty much your mode selector, which is what I would call it. So we're in object mode by default. That is the green outline. See, green outline. And we can click and hold and go to different ones. Go to edge. It's now become a blue outline, and the edge that you're about to select will become red. So you can click on it. Like, you don't even have to click right on it. As long as it's highlighted in red. See, I can click here, but it will always click that one. And you know it's highlighted by the change in color. It's become orange. So Control Z, or Z actually. I'm used to Control Z from Photoshop, but Z is your undo. And Control Y is your redo. I don't know if it's just Y, but let's see. No. So Control Y. All right. So edge selection. Select an edge, and your gizmo can come up. All 3. Scale, rotate, and move. So if you want to have a particular look to your cube, you can move it in like this, or like this, and it will change the shape. Get used to tumbling around your object, because you'll be doing that for your entire career if you choose this as a path. So, and these work as well, the little squares. working along these two axes, but not within the third one, which would be this way. So you can select multiple edges at the same time. So you see that this is orange, and then edges that you have selected, if you hover over them, they'll turn green, but edges you don't have selected, if you hover over them, they'll turn red. So hold shift, see the plus sign comes up, you're adding. So click on that edge. Now you have two edges selected, and they can both move together. And Z to undo. And you can select as many edges as you desire. You can select all edges by marquee selection. See, now I have all edges selected, but it's not really going to do anything because I have the whole object selected at that point, because it's every edge within the object. So try this. So you click, and then you shift, double click, and it should, actually, no, maybe not with the cube, but we will select all of these top four. See, they're all orange. These ones are blue, they're not selected. And go to your scale, and you see this square here, pull them in just like that. You have a new object. It's no longer a cube. It could be just the basis of like a Mayan pyramid or something like that. And you can use your move to scale it. That's more like the Mayan temple, something like that. And this way, that way, doesn't really matter. It's whatever you desire. It's usually not the best to rotate these kinds of things because it puts it into an odd position that I can explain in more of an advanced tutorial, but I'm going to go over the basics in this one. So we're going to get back to our cube, go to vertex. So yeah, let's right click, vertex, and so you can select each point where edges meet is a vertex. So see all of these red dots, red dot, red dot, red dot, or they're pink, and then when you highlight them, when you get close to them, they're red. So you can move these points individually. It gives you more freedom than an entire edge. So I could just move this in, and see this edge is shortening now. And I don't have to work within that edge, but I can just pull like that. You can't scale them individually, but if I could make the exact same result if I have all four of these selected and pull them in, pull them down, and we're there again. So basically any commands that you use for different modes will pretty much be universal. So your move tool, your rotate tool, your scale tool, they'll always work within all of your different modes. So the main ones you're working with are object mode, which is selecting the whole object, edge mode, selecting edges, vertex mode, selecting vertices, which is the plural of vertex, and then you can go to face mode, and that selects individual polygons. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 polygons, and you can move these individually as well and create the same result that we did before, just like that. Move down, whatever way you want to work with it. So you can also delete polygons by pressing the delete key on your keyboard, and that will get rid of it. See, now it's an empty box. But these black parts, the black face parts, are not what you want to see. You always want to see the gray part, because this doesn't work, and I can explain that in another video. But so basically you want to do your Z, come back, you got your cube, and we're going to start with extruding now. So grab the face, and you can come up to edit mesh, extrude. This is going to be one of the most powerful tools that you use. So you see we have all the same polygons here, all the same amount. But now that we've extruded this one face, we create this. New faces built upon the old face. So now we have 4 extra faces here. So just like that. You can go inward, but it kind of breaks it. And unless you use your scale, and then you can pull them inward, and now you have a little sunken part, something like that. So go back, and this is a little fun practice you can do. So you do this. You can also hit Control E, and that will go right to extruding. So when you extrude, it gives you a new gizmo. It gives you the extruding gizmo, and it works as a move tool and a scale tool at the same time. You can use it as a rotate tool, but like it's really not. It's not ideal. So what you want to do to access the scaling of your extrusion, this is plainly the move of your extrusion. You click on the cube. See, it's not going to do anything, but it's not going to go up like that. But there you go. Something like that. You can pull the cube, and it scales instead of moves. Scale inward. And all polygons are always bound by other polygons. They always want to be 4-sided or 3-sided. And this program will help you in just making that a reality rather than having to like compute it yourself. So I went back. We're gonna go back to face, extrude, Control E, and if you click on this, if you just click it, now you're plainly in your scale mode, and you can pull in like this. It's pulling in on 2 axes, and it'll keep the same ratio of the square. But if you were to grab in like this, it's not keeping the same ratio. That it might look like a square, but it's a rectangle here. And so we'll go back. You can press W, E, and R to just, you don't have to use the extrude gizmo. Sometimes it's a pain, but sometimes it can really be really helpful. So we're going to scale inward like this, and then we want to extrude again. So that creates another section of polygons, and it does not affect any of our previous polygons here. And now you have kind of like a box man. Here's like the box head, box body. It doesn't have any arms or legs, but there you go. You can keep pulling that up. Pull it up as far as you want. Doesn't really matter. But you can also, I'm going to go back, press F for frame, tumble till you see what you want, and then we can pull down as well. And now it's created this small hole in here. And maybe that's what you want, maybe that's not what you want, but just experiment with what works for you. So I'm just going to extrude. I'm just going to keep using the extrude tool and make a bit of crazy stuff. So Control E again, click on the cube to get it into the scale mode, and then you can uniform scale with this between these 2 axes. There's this square. So I've scaled it down, but if I pull it up, it's going to bring the other polygons with it. But if I extrude again, it will come up by itself and create new polygons. So you can basically just do that over and over. Doesn't matter. Looks cool. One of the most powerful tools you use in this program. So basically, from there, we have this object. It's pretty strange. We don't know what it is, but you can morph it into whatever way you want. You can grab the vertices and drag them over here, drag these over here. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever you desire as your shape. Whatever you're trying to build, you can use these tools to manipulate your vertices, edges, and faces to create what you want. All right, so you can also extrude multiple faces at the same time. So if I were to go to face mode, grab this face, this face, and this one. So all 4 of these are selected. You can check by pressing 4 on your keyboard, which shows the wireframe, which it is just an X-ray view of what you have. So you can see I have these selected, but I also have the top one selected. It looked like, actually. Oh. Strange. All right. So all 4 are selected. And actually, let's extrude this one again. It'll be easier. Extrude that. And you can select a whole row by clicking Shift and then double click on the next one. And now you see that all 4 of these have been selected. So I can hit extrude and it will extrude all faces together outward. So you have extruded multiple faces. And another way that you can do it, if you see this keep faces together, you can click it, go off, and then they all come out separately instead. You can mess with these parameters. It's up to you. You can pretty much do any of this with the scale tool. It doesn't really matter. Divisions, it's adding just subdivisions to your extrusion, to how many times you want, how many more subdivisions you want. It's usually best for making like ropes and whatnot when you're extruding along a path. I can cover that in another video. It's not really a basic thing. So next, what we want to use is the bevel tool. So beveling can work on a face or an edge. As well. You can extrude edges and they work just like that, but depending on what you're working on, it can be a bit strange and it might not help you get where you want to be, but like it's up for you to decide as you become more familiar with the program. And you can extrude vertices, but you really should never do that. It's just kind of, it's not really doing anything right, in my opinion. Maybe I'll find a use for it. So we're going to use beveling. So go to face mode, click on the top face, and you can go to edit mesh. I believe it's under bevel. And beveling, it basically creates a new edge. It creates a new edge that how can I explain this? Yeah, it creates a new edge, and it has a predefined length that it's going to create that new edge in. But you see this fraction? If I change this to 0.1, they're very close now. But if I change it to 1, it doesn't work. It kind of breaks it. But let's do 0.8. 0.8, and we got our Mayan pyramid thing again. It's just your fraction is the space between the two edges. So 0.1. I can also do 0.02. Makes a really tiny one. You can see it's there. And as you can see, most objects in the world do not end right on a straight edge. It's very strange to see that. You don't often see that unless it's like hard cut metal or it was plainly a design choice. But most things in the world have a bevel to them. So we can bevel these edges. We'll just do it in the edge mode this time instead. And click these 4 edges. And then, if you like how you selected the primitives before with the shift and right click, when you have an object selected and are using edge, vertice, or face mode, a new window will come up instead. And most of these I don't use. Well, I use them, but like not from this menu. But we can go to bevel right here, easiest way. So again, you can go up here and bevel. Took 2 seconds, took half a second. It's really how you want to cut down your workflow. So we have all of them. Bevel, change our fraction to 0.1, and that looks nice. And then if you go to object mode and you click away, you can see without the outline of how your object will actually look. See, this is our object without the wire, without the outline around it. There it is. Shows all your polygons, but this doesn't show all your polygons, and that's really what you want in certain situations. So let's go back. We'll bevel again, and if we add multiple segments, it makes a smoother transition between the two edges. See, if I do like 6, it's become smooth. But if I just have 2, it has an edge. 1, just like a straight edge there, but smoother and smoother, depending on what you want. In games, you want to limit the amount of polygons you're using, because it puts more strain on the computer. If you were to have something with like 1,000 polygons and you had like 1,000 of them in your scene, or in your game, then it might slow your computer down. But if you found a way to make something look like 1,000 polygons, but it was actually like 500 or 600, that's gonna work better for games. And that's really what we're trying to get across here. We're trying to like trick the eye to see detail while preserving the amount of polygons that we use. It doesn't really matter for movies because the computer doesn't have to run it as it's happening. As you see each object, it's already like, it's a hard thing to explain, but for games, we just want to preserve our polygons, the amount of polygons we have. So a way you can check that, actually, I have it up here already. You can see it says 41,000 in the scene. That's only because he's here. But if you select your specific object, this row, this column will show you how many polygons you have. So a face is a polygon, and then a try is each one of the faces cut in half, really, or like each. So there's tries and there's quads. The quad is a 4-sided polygon. Try is the 3-sided. So for all of your quads, it will compute that they've been cut in half, and it will give you pretty much your try count will be double your face count for the most part. So what we want to do is the next thing is the multi-cut tool. So this one helps me a lot. This is a way of adding subdivisions without having to because you see now I have these parameters here again, but if I wanted to add subdivisions to my cube, if I wanted like more polygons, and I was like, oh hey, maybe I'll add like 3 to it, it just broke. The computer can't compute the complexity of the object after it's been modified. So the only time you can use these is when your primitive has just been spawned. So if we want to add subdivisions, this is what I use, the multi-cut tool. So you can go to edit mesh. I believe it's under edit mesh. I think it might be mesh tools. Yes, multi-cut. Press that, and you can just click in the world, click over here, press enter, puts a slice in it. But that's kind of an ugly slice. If we wanted something like just as straight as this, there's 2 ways we could do it. First, you can go to your edge and then hold control, and that will show you exactly where it will try to match the angles of the nearest edge. See, this is all straight, but as this gets to this more distorted edge, it starts to go at an angle like that. So you can just click, add more. Now you have a ton more subdivisions here. And another way, say if we had this edge here, you can press Q to deselect your tool. It goes to your select tool. And so if we double click this edge, it will select the whole edge, the whole row of edges. And then if we use the scale tool within the y-axis and pull it, it will straighten it out. See, now it's just as straight as the other ones. Just like that. You're going to be using that a lot, I would guess. So we can use the multi-cut again. I usually have my own shelf for it. I have my Jamie shelf here, and it's this icon. You can find it in polygons. It's the same icon. Go here, click that. I usually just like to click that one. I think you can find it. You should be able to find it. Yeah, it's just right here. Maybe I should just start using that. So multi-cut right there, and then hold your control, and you can snap to different increments if you hold shift while you're doing it. See, it's like snapping more. It's not as like free flowing as this when you're just holding control. But if you hold control and shift, it will snap to increments that you've set within the tool. So we can split that in half, split that in half, and now we have more to work with. We grab these, extrude them out, whatever you want, bevel them, add segments, cut this again. We can cut within this face, all that kind of stuff. So it's whatever you want to make. We can do this, select these two rows, extrude them, bevel them, and now we have, maybe it looks like a tower confined within some sort of blockade on top of, I don't even know, something. But it's whatever you want to create. Always go in with something in mind to create, really. So that's pretty much all that I wanted to cover in this video. These are all like the essentials. My next video will probably make some walls, and I can explain snapping and modular design, which is what games are really based around. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you in the next one. See you later.